Guys, good to see you. How are you
Good
both?
to see you too. It always is. Here we are again,
Hey, Steve.
gathered
Hey,
once
Leon.
more. Lovely. So we got three again this week, haven't we?
We've got the last three characteristics of God's teacher in our huge undertaking to look at the manual together.
Thank God, because I'm running out of patience.
This will
That-
revitalise you.
well, that implied you had some in the first place.
Excuse me.
Steve and I aren't open-minded enough to believe in that faithfulness.
Is it?
Hey.
Let's have a look at patience. So, those who are certain of the outcome can afford to wait and wait without anxiety. Patience is natural to the teacher of God. All he sees is certain outcome, at a time perhaps unknown to him as yet, but not in doubt. The time will be as right as is the answer, and this is true for everything that happens now or in the future. The past as well held no mistakes, nothing that did not serve to benefit the world as well as him to whom it seemed to happen. Perhaps it was not understood at the time. Even so, the teacher of God is willing to reconsider all his past decisions if they're causing pain to anyone. Patience is natural to those who trust. Sure of the ultimate interpretation of all things in time, no outcome already seen or yet to come can cause them fear.
When it talks about patience, when I first come across the course and I decided I was going to learn it and teach it, and I started looking into other teachers, and it's saying like it takes 15, some people reading it for 20 years before they understand it, and some never understand it. And I thought, 20 years? How long did it take 20 years to figure this out? And here I am, 16 years later. My patience knows no bounds now. At the time, I thought, that's a long time to wait. Really, 20 years? What, to read this and learn it? Then I discovered once I got into it that that's appropriate. It's not really, it really is a course. It's an understanding. And you don't read it like a novel, do you? Like some people have said to me, I've read that. I've read it twice, in fact. Well, you couldn't have done. You couldn't have done. I'm not going to call you, perhaps you're not telling the truth there, but the point is, you couldn't have done. It's not like the carpetbaggers or anything like that. You know what I mean? Anyway. But anyway,
um,
I understand the patience thing, and you just know that I know I'm on the true road home, and I've got all the patience you need now. Though at the beginning I couldn't understand why you needed all this patience, but I do now.
mm,
You know.
there's a military saying that I always quote to my clients because if you imagine I'm one of the finishing trades, so say for example someone's had the roof ripped off their house and they're having their loft converted, they've had the carpenters in, the roofers, the plumbers, the electricians, and then finally the tiler turns up and I'm like, all right, how's it going? Oh yeah, that sounds nice, let's do. And they're like, oh my god, we're nearly there. And I remembered I worked for this guy who used to be quite high up in the military. And he said this thing to me. He goes, in a journey of 100 miles, 90 miles is about halfway.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah, the
It's
10-yard
true
line, the
though.
famous 10-yard line, those last 10 steps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I'm also
I want to
thinking
take
of,
off from something Steve said, which is
yeah.
that patience actually takes you to the realization because we're wanting to understand, and there's a deepening of understanding, and the final understanding is that there's nothing to understand. Nothing in this universe can be understood because it's no thing. It's not true. So understanding something which isn't true is not true understanding. It's just a waste of time. And so the true understanding is I can understand nothing about this, but I can know my true self. And it's that be thyself knowingly, knowing the self, which is our shared self with all our fractured selves, our Christ self, and our extension of God's self. And that there's no understanding in that. There's no mental activity processing in present moment awareness. There's just pure awareness. And so it takes us a long time to understand there's nothing to understand. And eternity is eternally patient. So,
And aware that there's no thing,
yeah, there's nothing.
nothing, no thing. There is just an awareness, you know.
Yeah,
It's just that the awareness behind the mind. Like, and I went reading it was I got it took me a fair way into the course before I actually took in that consciousness is actually of the ego. You know, because like, you know, a lot believe that the consciousness is actually God. Like, you know, the consciousness is like the afterlife, but it's not. It's that we are the awareness behind the mind, you know.
absolutely.
Yeah, I am Stephen Dean is a body and a mind. I am the supreme being. I'm a supreme being. I am, you know, I am. That's when Nissa Gadata, when I keep referring back to him because I can so relate to the way he teaches, you know. I so well to what he says. He says things as I understand them, you know, he's brilliant. And that awareness behind the mind, if you could, which it's quite easy to understand really why the consciousness isn't needed in awareness because there's nothing to be conscious of.
Absolutely.
It's just a knowing, an
Yeah.
awareness of perfect love. That's all it is.
And there's
Consciousness
and
is,
there's no little I to understand anything. There's the I is transcended, and there's just pure present moment awareness, the
yeah,
essence of the extension of God, love, peace, joy, ever
yeah. Well,
extending.
I suggest that there's I and somebody else. You know, like I and if you're defining yourself as something I am. So really, once you get past that, there is not even any I am. It's just, you know, it's just
Yeah.
no thing.
Leon, playing on that military line that you have, we have one in the South African military, which is, as soldiers, it would all be hurry up and then wait. And that relates perfectly to any seeker student searching for enlightenment. This
Mm.
is, I got to hurry up. I've got to get it. I've got to figure it out. And once that present moment awareness, the holy instant, occurs, happen, whatever. Now what? Now you're aware of being aware. Now you're aware that you are the awareness. Now the script still plays out. Now the vigilance is required. And those who are certain of the outcome can afford to wait and wait without anxiety. Because you'll see the seeker is permanently anxious. I'm missing out on something. I haven't figured it out. There's something more to understand. There's another course to read. There's another seminar to attend. There's another satsang to participate in. There's another retreat to attend. I've got to get more. I've got to listen to another teacher. I've got to listen to another YouTube video. Abide. Present moment awareness. Abide. Rest in God. Knowing the dream is already over. What outcome is there? There's only one outcome to nothing, and that is what's always been, what will always be God. The extension, and we're the extension of God. We're the eternal extension of present moment awareness. What's it? There's no hurry, if there's nothing to achieve, there's always only now. What are we impatient about? What's the anxiety for? It's because we buy into the dialogue of the ego that says it's still something to achieve. You haven't got it yet. Why didn't you figure it out earlier? Look at the past. Why did you do those silly things? The past was perfect. It brought you to here now. And the future is just more here now. But you have to remain vigilant so that you don't get trapped by the broadcasts of the dreaming mind. It wants to pull you back. It wants to pull you back into time, wants to turn you into a patient that needs to develop patience.
Yeah, like we said before, the last step gets you there, but all the hundreds of ones before that were the ones that got you to that last step. They were just as vital, no matter what happened along the way. You know, it's like when you think back about, right, before I got into the course, I used to think about perhaps lost opportunities and all that, and they weren't lost opportunities. They just weren't the road you were supposed to go up. You were supposed to
Precisely.
be led this way. It's like it's them. It's the route is pre-planned. Well, it's not pre-planned. It's up to you what you do with your free will and the other. But the dream is over, and
Mm.
what you did in that dream is already over. But for you already in it, you're still doing it. But you've still got to learn to do it. So at the end of it, you realise that it was you that did it. You already did it. I mean, it's you understand that it can be a bit muddled to look thinking of it with an egoic mind. But once you get into the metaphysical, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Well, the past as well held no mistakes,
Yeah.
nothing that did not serve to benefit the world. In other words, all your fractured selves, as well as to him. And here's the beautiful line, to whom it seemed to happen. Didn't happen.
Yeah.
Perhaps it was not
Yeah.
understood at the time because you thought you were in time. The minute you step out of time into presence, the clarity of the knowing of self, that's all there is to know. Self and God is one, indivisible self.
Mm. And the
Indivisible.
thing is, no matter what happened in the past, didn't really happen now because you can't remember. You can't. Once it's like it says in the book, like the past is like swimming across an. Can you wheel yourself across an ocean to the other side? You can't. You cannot reach the past. There's no. I mean, like, was I born? I mean, my ego thinks it was born, but really, as myself, as my true identity in God, I wasn't born. And if
Yeah.
I keep thinking, I mean, I don't even remember being born anyway. As we said the other week, like, if you remember any past lives? I can't even remember being born, let alone any past lives. You know. So as soon as it
Uh,
passes into memory, the memory starts to get moulded round into what you think it was anyway. Like, it's like when you watch an old film, you see a certain part in a film and you remember it as such, and you see the film 30 years later and it isn't how you imagine, it isn't how you remembered it. They don't quite say what you thought you said, or they don't look the same. It's so really your whole memory, how your brain twisted it about, was wrong anyway.
yeah.
So your whole past isn't true in the sense of earthly truth. There's no earthly truth here. It's like everybody's got their own truths, haven't they? I used to have this thing like, so I'm like two people are walking along and they come across the street, come across blokes standing on a soapbox talking about political stuff. And I'll stop and listen and say, well, I don't like that. And the other one say, well, I thought it was really good. So what's true for one isn't true for the other. And that's two truths in between two people just watching someone standing on a soapbox. It's we all have our own truths, but there's no real truth here.
Yeah.
You see, everything here isn't. It's like in a dream, there's nothing true in a dream, no matter what it appears to be, is there?
That's why I love that sentence. The closest we get to truth is listening to the silent stillness, the echoes of eternity.
Yeah. And also silence. I
Yep.
mean, silence is always there, isn't it? You can relate silence to the love of God, to the understanding of God. Silence is always there. Behind the noise is always silence. You can't get behind silence. Silence is silence is silence. Once it's silent, in space it's silent. It has no beginning, it has no end. Silence is forever, as is God. And that is a good comparison because you can understand the nature of silence. Once you can wrap your head around the nature of silence, you're wrapping your head around the nature of God.
Yep.
Because it's permanent.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about perceptual filters and how I think Rupert Spira uses the thing with orange glasses, doesn't he? Looking at the snow. If you look at the snow with a pair of orange glasses on, guess what? The snow's going to appear orange. And with these characteristics that we get walked through, they all seem to fold in on themselves, in a sense, don't they? It's like the patience, it's describing patience, and then it's almost saying, but really, you don't need patience as a separate aspect of your one identity. It's just a way of explaining something at the moment. And, perceptual filters being what we overlay, what Course calls judgment, onto experience, onto the present moment. And then what the Course calls forgiveness is our way of observing that activity of judgment without investing in it, without believing in it, but still just watching it happen. And it's like a little cheeky way to circumvent being stuck in that perceptual filter. And because thoughts arise, like we've said many times, and you're not trying to stamp out thoughts and think, God, the purpose of my atonement is to stop thinking and blah blah blah. It's like, no, the thoughts are going to arise all the time, and it's about whether you identify with them. But
Hmm.
because of the ego mind, and because it knows our triggers, if you like, the ego mind uses fears that are effectively potentially going to work on you.
Hmm.
So if you have a thought about something that seems completely inconsequential, a thought arises in your mind about, I don't know, a bit of footage you saw on the TV a week or so ago, and it goes past really gently like a cloud that's there, but it's not that interesting. And then another thought comes up when you hear a noise outside, and it reminds you of that time that you saw someone fall over and smash their face on the ground. All of that doesn't go past all gently. That's got some more quote unquote solidity. And what makes it seem more solid and go slower is the fact that we turn and look at that thought, we identify with it, we
Hmm.
give it the charge of our attention, which ramps it up and makes it more present in our mind. And then we lean into it and it has an effect on us. And then we have to come away from it. And then there might be a shadow of it, and that's no different to this thought that just went by about something on the telly, but we gave it that extra strength, quote unquote, for it to have
Yeah,
more of an impact and change
Yeah.
the peacefulness of that silence that we had at our fundamental level of existence,
correct.
which seemed to be disturbed.
Which is really nothing I see means anything. And
Yes.
I've given everything I see the meaning it has for me. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's one of the, besides patience, really learning that the outcome is already achieved and all you need to do is be vigilant and patience comes with it, is the recognition that it's all you, Holy Son of God, outer reflection of an inner condition. You
Mm.
know, choose to be faithful and patience is natural. Choose to be joyous and patience is natural. Choose to recognize you but dream a dream that never happened in your shared absolute reality with God. And what's the hurry? And now if you're in that state of present moment awareness, which is patience, what else is there to do but to be the joyous lightness of being, to be joyful, like last night or your party night, Leon.
Mm.
There's no rush. And you started hearing the sounds of silence play out as a tune in your awareness. And now you have your next song. It's already there in timelessness, in spacelessness, in the ever now, because you were willing to be present. Whether
Mm.
you did it intentionally or not, it's already a natural predisposition for the Son of God who has chosen to will the will of his Father. So it's coming naturally to you now. No effort required. And what I try and share with people that follow my Rude Awakening blog is
Mm.
the minute you will to will God's will, you will get evidence. It's what it means. The Bible meant when seek and ye shall find. It doesn't say seek and maybe you shall find. There's no maybe. There's seek and you shall find. You will be given evidence when you really will to will God's will. Don't believe a word I tell you. Never believe anything I tell you. Put it to the task,
Mm.
and then argue in silence if you disagree.
And
Well,
interesting, Lou, as well, what you were saying earlier about our appetite for another book, another podcast, another. If it's not about fulfillment, if we're not reaching for something, then it can just simply almost be like you're not starving hungry, but you just fancy a snack because having a snack is nice.
Absolutely. I don't know about you guys, but I was, that psychometric tests and blah blah blah. A-type personality, high achiever, the most impatient person, always in a hurry, and there's this underlying anxiety. And that's why I become such a good corporate business leader because I'm able to push and push some more and strategize and plan and push and drive it to the nth degree. Never going to be happy because there's never a finality. And that's just the typical ego. It keeps you so preoccupied with doing and chasing and pursuing. But spiritual ego is the same. Spiritualized ego is the same. The next book, and all that is you cannot wait without anxiety. The anxiety is there. And what is anxiety? Anxiety is wishing that the present moment isn't as it appears,
Yeah.
wishing it was different,
Yeah.
wishing for a different outcome, resisting what is. And that's going to create anxiety because you're wanting something that isn't true and you're wanting the illusion to become something which isn't true.
Mm.
None of it's true. Be present here now. And if you abide in silent stillness, truly rest in God, the inspired enthusiasm will come through you, the creativity, inspired enthusiasm. It'll flow, and your natural talented nature as appearing in form, which is joyous peace. It's the same in everyone. It's essential joyous peace, but through our physical appearance plays out as our talented nature. When you abide in that silent stillness, it plays out, and for you it will be music, and for Steve it'll be, the way he teaches and humor, and for Lou it'll be strategy.
Mm.
Business strategy, creative strategy, build another business. It doesn't matter how it plays out. The truth is when you abide, when you rest, knowing there's nothing to chase, nothing to do, nothing to seek, rest as awareness, rest in God, rest in peace, and the joyous, passionate enthusiasm, creativity flows through you and it wants to pour itself out and share itself with all its fractured cells because it knows it's sharing itself with itself, one indivisible self. And how many students, seekers, 20 years later, Steve was saying earlier, they haven't got it. And
Mm.
it's because I didn't get it here, so let me read the next book and then the next book, and then I'll come back to the course. And if you just stuck to the course or Nisargadatta's work or Ramana's work or Jesus's teachings, just stick to one path and let it direct you inwards, you'll find the answer for yourself through your own direct experience. There's nothing more out there. They're all hoping that there's something more. There's a missing one tiny little trick. Maybe the next talk, I'll get it. There's nothing to get.
Mm.
Be here now. Be patient. Be here now.
Mm.
Which all the stuff I've learned is entirely from the Course of Miracles. When it says this is the only book you need, I took that kind of literally. It's only recently, like when Nisargadatta come along, and I sort of looked through it and found what he's actually doing is affirming all the ways that I've taught it. Because I don't stick. I mean, like in my mission to simplify the course and make it understandable to the bloke in the street, I found that Nisargadatta I can absolutely relate to how he described to me the course. And
Mm.
I just enjoy reading it because, yes, yes. I'm not sort of reading through it, learning from him. I'm reading through it going, yeah, that's it. That's it. That's it. That's what I say. Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, that's it. It's wonderful. And he's such lucid way of explaining stuff. Like I like it. I mean, I'm getting some good examples from my videos. It's all
Yeah.
important to me. If you're going to teach it, you've got to put it across in a way that people can understand. I think the whole idea the course is written the way it is in that complex way is for you to sort of unravel it till you finally realise it's just saying you're dreaming, mate.
Yeah.
You know,
When I
it's
was
but if
speaking to I was speaking to
you
Keith, having a bit of lunch with Keith Kavanagh in excuse me in London a little while ago, we were talking about. In fact, I was telling him what we were doing and how we were going through the manual and the idea to cross-reference with Nisargadatta just so that people could get a taster for the universal truth of non-dual
Hmm.
teachings. And something Keith said, which is stuck with me, which is absolutely brilliant, is like, is the course the only way? No, of course not. Is it the simplest way? No, of course not. But is it the most beautiful? Yes, it bloody well is.
certainly that.
It is such a beautiful picture painting poet. It's just an absolute masterclass in beautiful symbolic language. And if that's your leaning, again, we could use a metaphor of sort of cooking or eating food. Some people might prefer stuff. simple ingredients as they are, and some people want to put spices and herbs and things like that in it. We're all still eating the same core nourishment, but depending on your leanings, the course is just, it's just such a gorgeously beautiful embellishment. But it does require you to have to really lean in, and it makes you read it slowly, doesn't it? Because you won't get it. And even the Shakespearean format and the iambic pentameter and all of that, if you read it without being exactly that pace to take it in, you're not going to get it. So it's designed to make sure you grasp it.
Well, the way I read it, if I got to the bottom of a paragraph and realised I hadn't understood it, I'd just start again. And I read it. I read the entire book like that because I couldn't see the point of sort of skipping anything, And then you go to read it again. You keep finding my book is full up with highlighting. It's like a book of highlight. So I read it again, highlighted stuff, and I read it again. I got more highlight. Read it again, highlighted. Now the whole thing's highlighted, and I thought, wait a minute, I understand it all. I've highlighted, I've highlighted everything.
Yep, get on that one. Yeah.
And then you go back and read the bits that aren't highlighted and go, wow.
Yeah, read them. I thought, wait, I'll get that now. Yeah, absolutely incredible.
Let's have a look at it.
Does your book look something like that, Steve?
Oh, yes, it's the twin. It's a twin. Hang on. Let's see if I can get it.
I mean,
here's my one. Look, this is it. Look.
The whole thing is highlighted,
It's absolutely. Here's my book. Look.
So what I've now done is I've got a PDF version which I now highlight.
The highlight of my. Yeah, look, it's just the same as your Lou. Look, just the same sort. Well, look, it's a.
You missed the spot, Steve. You missed the spot.
I'll have to go over that later. What magic awaits?
What magic awaits? Yeah, the beauty is it just, like it'll say later on the next passage. I don't want to be jumping it, but we really just unlearning, and these are just reminders of what's not true. It's the netty, not this, not that, not this, not that. Completely just flipping us 180 degrees and just completely reversing the thinking of the world. And if there's only one thing to learn, the Son of God is still in the kingdom. This never really happened. And in order to remember the essence, the essential nature of what you are, simply forgive yourself for dreaming something that never happened till you get to the point of realizing there was nothing to forgive. I'm just awakening from something that, I had a little afternoon snooze in God, and it seemed to take 16 billion years. There's a long drawn-out dream that happened in a millisecond, nanosecond, and it was over. Poof, further silence.
Well, that revelation I had in Australia, I said last time I spoke about it, it lasted an hour. But thinking back, I just thought it lasted an hour because I didn't really have any concept of time. It was just like like it says you can't describe revelation. It's just perfect love is the best. Perfect love is what I can say what it is, but the actual the feeling of this, the grasping of this perfect love, is just you can't describe it.
No,
you don't need patience for it because you're not waiting for anything. You don't need understanding because there's nothing to understand. You don't need any human trait at all. You're just sitting there in a condition that you could be in forever. Because it's so wonderful, and as I understand it, revelation is only a speck compared to what it actually truly is once you get there. It's wonderful.
And the Rude Awakening, I have a description of that. The closest I get to describe the indescribable is, a woman will understand this better than men, is full body orgasm with ice cream in your mouth. That's it. That's the closest to. There's no other way.
I have to say, as a male, I haven't experienced that. Not yet.
Well, it's because I'm special and specially enlightened, so I have that.
That's because there's no ice cream in America, Steve.
No,
There is. I've
no.
got some in the freezer right now. You give me some ideas there. I'll have a word with the missus a bit later on.
Wait
Young
till you're off
gentleman
camera.
found dead in a bath of ice cream in the US of
Yeah.
A. Big smile on his face.
Yeah, when I was playing guitar last Saturday night, and I was getting this music coming through me, and it was just like thinking, oh, hold on a minute, I should record that. And then I got my phone and pressed record and sat it on my knee while I was playing the guitar. And there was a couple of times quite a few times I'd stop and I'd go, okay, right, that's that, press stop. And it'd been running for like 37 minutes or something. And I was like, okay, that was, completely outside of time, that experience. And I had this sense of like being in complete physical isolation, but performing to the whole of creation. It's like the whole of creation was um, was there with ears listening, and that was the intention of what the expression was for the whole of creation. But it was outside of time, and yeah, I was very surprised to look down a number of times and go, "Oh wow, okay." I thought that was about 3 minutes, but no, it was over half an hour.
Time is just how you perceive it, isn't it? Like the old thing about when you're at work, the tea's be like worked. When the time flies, when you're enjoying yourself. That old cliche, but it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, you go at work, if you're working a boring job. I remember I had a mate who he was in a boring job, and he used to sit next to a great big clock, he was telling me. And he said, every time it couldn't help but he looked up for his desk at this great big clock. And he said, the days just dragged and dragged. He said, because I was never unaware of what the time was. So,
Yeah.
man.
Right, let's have a look at number 9, faithfulness.
Mm.
The extent of the teacher of God's faithfulness is the measure of his advancement in the curriculum. Does he still select some aspects of his life to bring to his learning while keeping others apart? If so, his advancement is limited and his trust not yet firmly established. Faithfulness is the teacher of God's trust in the word of God to set all things right. Not some, but all. Generally, his faithfulness begins by resting on just some problems, remaining carefully limited for a time. To give up all problems to one answer is to reverse the thinking of the world entirely, and that alone is faithfulness. Nothing but that really deserves the name. Yet each degree, however small, is worth achieving. Readiness, as the text notes, is not mastery. Truth faithfulness, however, does not deviate. Being consistent, it is wholly honest. Being unswerving, it is full of trust. Being based on fearlessness, it is gentle. Being certain, it is joyous. And being confident, it is tolerant. Faithfulness, then, combines in itself the other attributes of God's teachers. It implies acceptance of the Word of God and his definition of his Son. It is to them that faithfulness, in the true sense, is always directed. Toward them it looks, seeking until it finds. And having found, it rests in quiet certainty on that alone, to which all faithfulness is due. Gorgeous.
Just beautiful. Just
It
absolutely.
really is. It's just.
I was trying to say something about that is
Well, I'm going to jump in because there's something pertinent there for me. I mean, I do agree with both of you. It is just Wow. The best way we can honor that is to just shut our bearded faces. But I am going to defy God's will by talking about his sacred book. Because I can relate to the way that it's talking about how you would select some aspects of your life to bring this learning and keeping others apart, and how that's a measurement of where your trust's at, and how that's not an issue really, because you start with the small experience of that, and then probably, surreptitiously or in a very gentle way, that's extended. So, like we've said many times, this has to there can't be coercion. That's why even we know the word surrender isn't in the course, because it's so susceptible to be interpreted as something that you don't want to have,
Undesirable. Yeah.
undesirable. So there's absolutely no coercion whatsoever. And you just have it very, very gently being shown that what you once valued is now valueless, and what you thought was valueless is actually valuable. And they had to give up, the reverse the thinking of the world entirely. There's only one answer. And I was speaking to a couple of friends the other night, and one of them was saying, this is the constant deal with our existence. She goes, I'm blocking God's love, I'm not blocking God's love. I'm blocking God's love, I'm not blocking God. And then that's just the loop. And I just thought, well, that
Yeah.
was brilliant.
I can relate as well something to that line that you've picked there. Does he still select some aspects of his life to bring to his learning while keeping others apart? Way back about after I've been into the course a few years, when I finally grasped that I didn't have any past, the bit that what I brought to the learning after that was grasping that neither does anybody else then. Like if you've got no past, if you're going to accept that, and you've got to accept that nobody else has any past. So you have to see them as you see yourself in that case. If you see yourself as pastless, so to speak, then so are they. It's like this thing I made a
Yes.
few memes
Yeah.
out of this years ago. Like if everybody in the entire world all lost their memories at a given signal, we would all stand exactly equal, because all our memories all consist of what we think we are. If they're gone, we're there with what? Just inner knowing, I should have. Matter of fact, we just go back to being babies again, wouldn't we, really? If you take away the entire memory, you're just a baby again. Or are you? Or you're someone who just, what would you be left with? I remember reading about an experiment where they were talking about if you got a man and sat him in a room for 20 years, just fed him, but he was just nothing in this room, just fed him, kept him alive. At the end of 20 years, would he have become a man or would he be still a baby? I mean, it's a daft experiment because you could never do something like that, you know what I mean? But if you take away, I mean, a baby, when a baby's born, is totally innocent, as
Mm.
far as we know. I mean, I don't remember being a baby, but I don't remember. What I can remember about childhood is it being very inquisitive about everything. Everything was new. I remember that newness of childhood, where everything is kind of like, it's like everything's fresh,
Mm.
you know. But then even then I'm moving through life to remove your memory completely. And if everybody had their memories removed, we would be as we are, as long as it was
Yeah.
permanent.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't think there's a single seeker, course student, whatever, that hasn't at some stage realized you can't apply it to certain parts of your life and keep others apart. I
Mm.
tried that, I try to keep my spiritual life apart from my business life, for example.
Mm,
It didn't last because it's going to permeate through your awareness as your newfound awareness, and you're not going to be able to keep the two separate. In actual fact, what you once valued, desired, one pursued will be meaningless. It's going to permeate through all of it. So you can't keep the two apart. You can't find meaning in business or meaning in spirituality, but there won't be some in business. It's all outer reflections of an inner condition. And the sooner you surrender to allowing it to encapsulate your entire beings, the sooner the transcendence occurs and the present moment awareness extends here on forward forever as the eternal now. And it's a wonderful lesson to learn. And one of the things I used to do, and open and honest about this, is, I didn't need to have faith in God when it came to business. I could sort it out. I have the ability, I'm a strategist, blah, 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 qualifications, corporate experience, 25 years of turning businesses around. I don't need God for this. I need God to help me with my thoughts and with my personal life and with my
Right.
transcending my anger and learning to trust my brothers who are one with me. Business is easy. God, I don't need you here.
Right.
Well, guess what? Surprise, surprise, eventually we leave the corporate world. We now start our own business. And a year ago, I had to move into full faith because I put every single penny I have into this business. Everything has been given unto service. And a year ago, I had no idea how I was going to pay salaries the next month.
Mm.
And guess what? Whether you go into it gently into the night, or kicking and screaming, you've willed to will, and people want God to help them with learning faithfulness. Well, He's going to throw you in the deepest end you can imagine, crocodiles and all, and say, "Well, you wanted to learn to walk on water. Yes, you now have no choice. Now you learn to, because you've been thinking, because of your sense of false autonomy, egoic false autonomy, that you don't need me in all aspects of your life. There's nowhere where I'm not.
Mm.
There's nowhere you can be apart from me. So your faithfulness in me, your fullness in me,
Mm.
is based on faith, which is knowing. There's no hope here. There's no belief. It's the knowing. And the knowing that you are my holy son. You are the extension of source energy, forever extending. And what a beautiful direct experience lesson, which once that evidence has been given, the rest of your life becomes truly abiding in faith, abiding in resting in peace, abiding as awareness, resting in God is pure faithfulness.
Mm.
That's
Mm.
it.
That's beautiful. I really
That's lovely, mate. That
Yeah,
is.
beautiful. And I tell you what I like about that is that just like dovetails perfectly to what Steve was just saying. Because when Steve was talking about the process of physical evolution from being a baby, um, and I was thinking about the quantum field and the oneness of creation and how we are basically through experience and through tutelage, we are walked through a process of distinction, identifying with distinctions. When you start to realize the person coming and going with the bottle is perhaps, your mum or your dad, and then your toys, and then this, and then the garden. You're learning to see separation in a unified field, and you're learning those distinctions and how to then apply names to those distinctions. And then there's this evolutionary phase that they call object permanence, which is where they realize that, I've spoken about this before. If, like, you're playing with a child and you've got a cuddly toy, and then you take it out of their field of vision, at one age, that cuddly toy no longer exists at all anymore. And then as your cognitive capacity develops with age, the child then knows that that toy is now simply just behind the cushion, and it wants
Mm.
to look behind the cushion for the toy. So now you are giving distinctions and names to what you can see in your field of the moment, but you're also now starting to conceptualize away from the field and give names to those things as well. And yet we are learning we won't be able to undo, or I don't know, but I'm just going to say we won't be able to undo those distinctions. I'm thinking of, like, when someone says, when you're told that Father Christmas isn't real, you're never going to think Father Christmas is real again, that kind of thing.
What do you mean he's not real?
Oh shit! You
He
did,
was here
Steve.
last December.
Yeah.
Steve did say to me to press mute to mute Lewis's. Yeah, sorry about that. If I
No, I
mentioned
didn't.
Santa, if I mentioned Santa, mute Lewis so he can't hear. Um,
Anyway,
so
you're saying
we
there.
are. What's that,
Go
mate?
on. I was just going to say, like, but doesn't Jesus say, be as little children?
Yeah, of
Yeah.
Like,
course.
be as little children. I mean, what he
Yeah,
means is go back to where you were before you started to believe
yeah,
all this stuff. Have that same, that innocence. Get back to that.
of course.
Become like little children.
So if
You don't mean,
we will return to that in our process of seeing everything as one. So, like Lewis saying, with this faithfulness, we make distinctions, which again is just a reflection of our evolution through seeing this unified field of all these localized points, all these separate parts.
Mm.
And then through our journey, we see that
mm,
everything's one, everything's the same, but it's still going to have names because that's the bit that we almost can't go back on, but we don't
Mm.
invest any importance in those names because
Yes.
they're just for the purpose of conversation, if you like, now. But the full circle being we come back, and I've got a very good friend who often goes on about a girl who broke his heart when he was 15. And I can see now, as like this 50 plus guy, how his attitude to love is still completely and utterly defined by that memory. So
Yeah.
when you were talking about having no past, Steve, there's been a million times where I've thought to myself, if I could give you one gift in life, it would be to erase that memory and to see how your capacity to love would have been different in this journey, because that's from like 35 years ago and it still shapes the trepidation of how to open up and feel secure and to be loving. So
Yeah.
on this journey of like seeing everything as separate, learning to see
Mhm.
it all as one again, but still with names and forgetting about the past, staying in the moment. It's just an
yeah.
echo of that experience.
Well, early relationships can have a tendency to make you cynical,
Yeah.
and it's all about getting past that, isn't it? Really, you can't say every girl's the same. Like you get a girl who breaks your heart and messes you around 2 times you and does all this stuff. You have a tendency to think the next one's going to be the same, but you have to overcome that, and realise she's not. Like it's only you what you're plastering onto her, your projection and reflection again, isn't it?
Yeah, but if
You're
you had no
projecting onto her
past
what the other one
memory,
was like,
yeah,
and
Yeah.
that's unfair, really. Though you don't see it as unfair at the time, you see it as protecting yourself. But
true.
in reality, it's unfair,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, again, beautiful is the fact that we label things.
Mm.
Once you start to move into true faithfulness, the awakening has begun. There's no one listening to this podcast, I think you call it, that hasn't already started their awakening. You wouldn't be here.
That's
You,
right.
the minute you started on a spiritual path, your awakening began. And now it's just deepening as you lighten to the infinite beingness you are. Um, but once you've no longer attached to the outcome, knowing the outcome is certain, labels are just labels, things are just things, a tree's still a tree. There's no need to identify with or deny it.
Mm.
That starts when we want to deny, detach from. You don't detach from, you don't deny the world. It's in your mind. You embrace and love all of it as the extension of God, extension of eternity, no longer needing to label. Because to give up all problems to one answer is to reverse the thinking of the world entirely. And that alone is faithfulness. It's the recognition. No one broke your friend's heart. You can't break the heart. The heart is the self. The self is the love of God. You can break your identity, and you've given yourself a reason to believe you're a different, separate victim of the world, broken, heartbroken. You don't trust women. You don't have to trust women. You have to trust the self, the Lord God of your being. Once you trust the self, you don't need to trust anyone. You can be around anyone. You could be around the most untrustworthy person. It's not your trust in them that is going to transcend it. It's God's grace flowing through you that transcends it. You're always in God's grace. Everything is. You've never left, Holy Son of God. Nothing can break your heart. It's like saying heart is just a symbol for love, the eternal. Nothing can break love. It's your identification with what is heart, what is identity. That's broken. And what can break but illusion? What can break but the illusion of, I mean, that beautiful book by Gary Renard, Disappearance of the Universe. You don't break the universe apart. It just dissolves, disappears out of your awareness. Never was there, never there.
The dream
And
ends.
yeah. And I mean, we want to hang on to, oh, so and so hurt, broke my heart. All women are horrible creatures, not to be trusted. Well, then, if that's what you believe, that's what the world will demonstrate.
Mm.
The world's an outer reflection of what you believe, or it becomes an inner condition of what you know. Choose. It takes the same amount of effort to hate the world than to forgive it. And what are you forgiving? You're not forgiving the world, you're forgiving yourself for dreaming up this silly adventure into nowhere.
Yeah, like somewhere in the books where it says you look at once you've got an understanding, you can look at a brother in tears and say, "Brother, what you believe isn't so." I can't remember the exact phrase, but
Mm.
you're believing something that just isn't so, and it's
Mhm.
causing you such pain. It's how vital it is to understand. It's like with the way the world's going at the moment, it's dissolving into a kind of chaos. It's getting weirder and weirder.
Hmm.
I think the dream's coming to some kind of an end in some way because I don't see how it's going to get solved. The way it's gone in the physical world anyway, it makes me realise how vital it is that people do wake up to the truth because really it's the only positive way out of this. You know, that's
And
why the
also,
courses appeared at this time. That's why the courses appeared at this time because now people are starting to look for something. I've been posting on stuff on TikTok for 4 years. When I first posted it, I used to get people coming on and saying this, that, and the other. Now I'm picking up people every day. Coming on asking about this, that, and the other. Like it's ringing a bell with people, not say all of a sudden, but more so than it was before.
nice.
People are starting to look for something else. They realise there's a certain hopelessness about it all.
Yeah.
I
Or
will
apparent hopelessness.
I will echo something that Lou said a few weeks ago as well, when there hasn't been a better time in history to be alive on the planet.
Oh,
I believe that.
Mm.
yeah.
We're here for the finale. Well, my
I mean,
finale, the finale,
just
the
imagine
finale is
people
my
get to
leaving
listen
here.
to
For
us.
me, in my world, the finale is me. It's me leaving. The curtains are closing with me sticking my hand out the window and going, blah, blah. You
You
know,
know, the three bearded heretics. I mean, where else would you find three people but on your screen? And I mean, we're in your pocket. You've taken us out of your pocket. You're watching us on your screen. Never before has this been possible. Not even in Star Trek.
all their stuff's out of date now. They've got
There's three to beam up here.
them granny phones they use are out of date. Star Trek. Oh,
Yeah. But that
yeah.
I also want to draw attention that true faithfulness, however, does not deviate. Being consistent, and that is your decision. Consistency is wholly honest,
Mm.
unswerving. It's full of trust,
Mm.
based on fearlessness. I trust my brother who are one with me. My brothers who are one with me. It
Mm.
is gentle. There's no defense required, no attack required.
Yeah.
Being certain. It is joyous. Why? Because joyous is certainty of being. And being confident, know yourself truly. It is tolerant. No matter what appears and disappears, was never true. No matter what it seems they're saying about me, doing to me, fighting me, it's not true. I'm confident in the Holy Son of God. Faithfulness then combines in itself the other attributes of God's teachers. It's the whole. You can have it all. You can do good deeds and help old ladies across the road and give to charity and be kind and all whatever. But if you know not what you are, you know not what your father is. And if you know not self and father as one indivisible self, what's your faith in some dogmatic idea that something beyond you is going to come down on a cloud and save you? Or the knowing of your essential nature is in itself the eternal joyous lightness of being. And that is direct experience, true evidence. And in that knowing is your fullness. Now you can add the word faith, but your fullness is already there. There's your faith fullness. I always accentuate the word, the second part of the word, fullness, faith, fullness. I'm full of the Lord God of my being. It permeates through all of me and it wants to share. Even though I keep saying to myself, I'm never going to teaching them, I'm never going to do another YouTube video. I've done with this. I've given them everything I have. I keep repeating myself. What am I doing this about? It just wants to share itself fully. Here I am.
It's an understanding that everybody is actually like in my world, for example, everybody is me. I mean, I think like everybody, we are all one. So everybody's, they're only me in the sense that I project and reflect onto people what I think they are. And whatever object, my
Yes.
understanding of it, I reflect it all around me. And it's like it's a picture I carry around of me, of the world
Yes.
as I see it. That's my world. When I go, that world goes with it. In fact, I brought this world with me when I came here.
Yeah.
And I just started to colour it in as I went until I've got to the end of it now. And that's my world. Well, I'll say the end of it, but I'm quite a way through it. And that's the end of that's my world, and that's as I see it. But really it isn't anything. It's just I'm in a dream world where I'm just in a chair, say, within a holographic cinema inside me, watching it through my eyeballs, watching the world around me go by. I mean, this a guitarist decides that quite well as well. Like he's just, I'm not. He's like someone says to him, like, well, "You're just the same." He said, You appear to be the same as me. That you smoke cigarettes and you eat dinners and this, that, and the other." He said, "Of course, I appear to that because that's my role in the dream." He said, "But actually, I'm just observing it every day. I just watch what goes on. I get, He said, "Do you get angry?" He said, "If I get angry, it just passes by. It's just part of the dream. Part of my physical dream self gets angry, gets happy. But behind it all, I'm just aware that I'm getting angry and aware that I'm getting happy. It's just an awareness, that constant awareness." And if someone says to him, "Are you afraid of dying?" He says, "No, not at all." He said to me, like, the approach of death is like someone getting their suitcase off the luggage rack to get off the train. It's time to go home. And that's how I sort of like feel about things.
Yeah.
I just try to project my faithfulness onto people. And I just keep making. I made one yesterday. I make them. I can repeat them. I make them. Just keep making them. I just want to get this message out there
Yeah.
because I want to tell those people out there they're not what I think they are. They are really an awareness the same as I am. I want you to grasp that. I want you to
Yeah.
wake up, and I really care about it. I really care. It's a love for my fellow man. Really, it's a love for God because that really
Yeah.
is what my fellow man is. And it's an understanding of that. My understanding of that. I just want to project it. I
Yeah.
just want to teach it.
And it's been with us forever. There's that Sanskrit saying, Sat Chit Ananda, you know, awareness, presence, bliss,
Mm.
Atman is Brahman, Christ is God.
Yeah.
That's it. I've called it the infinite lightness of being or the joyous lightness of being. It
Mm.
just present and it wants to share. When did that start? No idea. I think somewhere between me wanting to become a recluse and hide in my bat cave
Mm.
and avoid the world. Somewhere it just seeped in and brewed, and then at one stage just wanted to come out. And it took faith to do it because you were so full of this present beingness. I mean, there's no words for it. I'm making up words as I'm going along,
Well, no, I
and
know what you mean.
it's just so beautiful. There's nothing more. There's nothing else. And the interesting thing is, I'll give you guys an example for this week. Um, where my business is in a legal dispute at the moment with the supplier who insists that we need to give them all our business, which is just bizarre. But that's Africa. Strange things happen here. And they're wanting to sue us because we're taking part of our business and giving it to someone else.
Really?
And it's just bizarre. Okay, and as bizarre as it is and absurd as it is, there's lawyers involved, which is entertaining. Lawyers are entertaining. You now have lawyers who understand the law trying to teach business people business, and which is just bizarre. Free market economy. The interesting thing is, I've gone into this meeting with total faith, knowing that whatever's going to be is going to be. And all I'm going to do is pour myself lovingly into it, nothing to forgive. And I'm genuinely trying to keep both my suppliers alive and trying to provide
Mm.
employment for both companies. My attorney can't understand why I'm not being more aggressive and going in for the jugular and shut them down. And there's no need. It's already playing out. That, it implies the acceptance of the word of God and his definition of his son. It's all me.
Mm.
Those people wanting to force me to buy from them. Holy
Mm.
Son of God, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I'm going out there in full faith, trying to take care of all of us. And I've put pressure on you guys to up your performance and improve your pricing so that I can make my business sustainable and grow in order to be able to help you grow. It's just this is my hobby. This is what I do 9 to 5 when I'm not sharing the word of God. But I'm
Mm.
serving through this too. And
Yeah.
and
Making
there's
no
the
distinction.
lawyers are getting all
Well,
angry and all upset, and I'm sitting there smiling.
which with lawyers are all
Knowing,
about the law rather than justice. It's not with
yeah,
lawyers. It's not about justice. It's about the law.
that's it.
You go to court. You got these old barristers there looking through quoting to the judge. In the case of
Yeah.
1984, Smith versus Jones, they did this and they did that. So I think you ought to say do the same because that's what judge said.
Yeah.
Whether it's right or wrong, that's what that judge said. So you agree with him. And the other barrister gets a book out, goes, well, in this case of 1962, Brown versus Smith, the judge decided this and decided that and the other. And he says, I reckon you ought to do that. And you go, I don't. Well, it's just a fucking performance. I mean,
Isn't
pantomime.
it just? Yeah, it's exactly that.
It is.
And
Standing
once
with
you've
his
let
wigs on
go,
it. No,
yeah,
yeah.
once you've let go of
It's,
all attachment to the outcome, to the play of the world, it can't upset you. I think 20 years ago, I would have been bashing heads. Now I just smile and
but you've
realize
mellowed.
this never happened. This is not true. This is just fractures of myself that haven't realized self yet. And it's not for this fracture to show those fractures. It's just to be it knowingly and offer it knowingly. And those that have ears of the heart to listen will hear, and those that don't will resist and fight it. But it's already over, so it matters not.
Mm.
It rests in quiet certainty within you. It just rests as this knowing, no matter what is appearing out there. What are you getting upset
Yeah.
about? You know, every
Funny enough,
country
my,
thinks they have the worst
go on.
problems ever. Every country thinks they have the worst president. Any country in the world that really likes their president? No one does. For as many people as like him, just as many dislike him. Do you know anyone that thinks there's the perfect political party, or there's no such thing, or the perfect spiritual doctrine? For as many people as love the Course in Miracles, there's just as many critics. For as many people as love Advaita Vedanta, or Christianity or Hinduism or what, there's just as many critics. It's
Mm.
just
Yeah.
knowing no matter what appears, disappears, was never true. But what is true is that which in which it all appears, the awareness of awareness. What's there not to be faithful?
There'll always be, because in a world of opposites, there's always going to be a negative side to a positive side. No matter, there's always people who say the Course of Miracles, they just don't agree with it or they can't see the point of it. There's always going to be those. Like in politics is the worst. Like, here in America, it's tribal. You've got your Democrats and your Republicans, and they're tribal about it. They actually come to blows and argue and fight. And that, no, it really is a tribal thing. Whereas in the UK, in my experience, everybody hates them all, and that's the end of the matter. You know what I mean? In the UK, they don't vote people in because they want them in. They vote in because they want the bloke out and get somebody else in there. For God's sake, and get sort out this mess. And he
Mm.
goes in and makes a mess, and it's just ongoing. It has been for
Yeah.
seems like forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Well, you've only got two tribes in the US of A. Yeah, we've got officially 12 tribes
Oh,
with
blimey.
12 different languages, official languages in South Africa. Well, there's more than 23 official languages spoken,
uh,
but we have 12 official, well, 11 plus Portuguese, so 12 official languages. I added the 12th one because I'm Portuguese, so I insist.
You showed your patience by
I showed my patience and my
just sitting
faithfulness.
and waiting.
Mm.
Yeah, it
Of
goes to
course, I'm so
demonstrate
open-minded.
it demonstrates the
Pardon?
importance of oneness. So, well, I was saying like this tribal here, like Republicans and Democrats, and they're sort of not both of them believe two different things about their country, but underneath they're all one. If they understood the truth, they realise that all that is just of no importance really at all. It's just an earthly thing. That's where we're all heading to eventually. Even in the courses, eventually everybody will wake up. It's got to take a long time,
Mm.
as it says, but it will get there in the end. I mean, it's like when you wake up in the morning, you don't snap awake, do you? No, that's it. I'm ready to go. You just gradually wake up and this, that, and the other. And it's the same in a dream of this size. It's going to take some time. With each molecule or person awaking, and the more they wake up until the balance tips, and then
Yep.
everyone's awake.
Yep.
And then no clouds will remain to hide the face of Christ.
Yep.
That's it, yeah.
So, open-mindedness.
Hmm.
The centrality of open-mindedness, perhaps the last of the attributes the teacher of God acquires, is easily understood when its relation to forgiveness is recognized. Open-mindedness comes with lack of judgment, as judgment shuts the mind against God's teacher. So open-mindedness invites him to come in. As condemnation judges the Son of God as evil, so open-mindedness permits him to be judged by the voice for God on his behalf. As the projection of guilt upon him would send him to hell, so open-mindedness lets Christ's image be extended to him. Only the open-minded can be at peace, for they alone see reason for it. How do the open-minded forgive? They've let go all things that would prevent forgiveness. They have in truth abandoned the world and let it be restored to them in newness and in joy so glorious that they could never have conceived of such a change. Nothing is now as it was formerly. Nothing but sparkles now, which seemed so dull and lifeless before. And above all are things welcoming, for threat is gone. No cloud remains to hide the face of Christ. Now is the goal achieved. Forgiveness is the final goal of the curriculum. It paves the way for what goes far beyond all learning. The curriculum makes no effort to exceed its legitimate goal. Forgiveness is its single aim, at which all learning ultimately converges. It is indeed enough. You may have noticed that the list of attributes of God's teachers does not include things that are the Son of God's inheritance. Terms like love, sinlessness, perfection, knowledge, and eternal truth do not appear in this context. They would be most inappropriate here. What God has given is so far beyond our curriculum that learning but disappears in its presence. Yet while its presence is obscured, the focus properly belongs on the curriculum. It's the function of God's teachers to bring true learning to the world. Properly speaking, it is unlearning that they bring. For that is true learning in the world. It's given to the teachers of God to bring the glad tidings of complete forgiveness to the world. Blessed indeed are they, for they are the bringers of salvation.
Blessed be.
Stunning.
As we yeah, isn't it? As we said earlier, like it's not learning the course, it's unlearning the world, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a course of unlearning.
Mm. I heard
You
a
know,
lot of echoes of many things we've said in the last 7 or 8 episodes in that there, and
Mm.
stuff that, I've spoken to both of you about individually on the other podcasts, and thinking of Lou saying he could never have conceived of his life being the way it is now. forgiveness
But
is the final goal of the curriculum, and what Steve, what you were saying about projection earlier, and how the difference between extension and projection, and in a very simple context for someone, if you saw somebody doing something quote unquote evil and you'd never seen them before in your life and you weren't going to see them again after that point, but you saw them do something evil, then you could project that event onto their being, past or future of that moment. And in doing so, you're going to blind the image of Christ, the extension of Christ. And it's a great example of how projection works, because that person might have done something then, and then the next day they might have helped 100 old ladies across the road and given all their money to the poor and fed starving people. But if you project that one little snapshot of what you think onto them, and then hold it in front of them like a cardboard cutout for all the other moments they pass through, all you're really doing is obscuring what's there. So no clouds can remain to hide the face of Christ.
well, talking about projection and reflection, the woman who introduced me to the course was a very strong, no nonsense woman at all. You couldn't pull the wool over her eyes about anything. Do you know what I mean? She was a great teacher in a way. I mean, she was very strong. She kicked my ego up and down the street. Do you know what I mean? And she was like, she was like rough sandpaper on me, like on my ego. She took rough sandpaper and sanded me down like this until I realised that my ego wasn't what I thought it was. Then we'd parted company. I went to live on a farm where the landlady there was somewhat unreasonable about all sorts of things. She wasn't as bad as the other one, but she was sort of midway. She was like a kind of medium sandpaper who took a bit more sort of rounding. Then finally, I ended up with my wife, who's very lovely, and she was the smooth sandpaper that sort of shaped me into what I am now. But really, what it was my projections onto them. And as I progressed, they got sort of like more and more sweet and kind and lovely until I ended up with someone sweet and kind as my wife. And not to saying the one at the beginning didn't have her moments, but I I couldn't have married her, put it that way. Although I loved her, I still do love her. I haven't seen her for years, but I owe her a great deal. She's the one who turned me onto the course all that years ago.
I don't
Don't,
think there's a hard enough grade of sandpaper for me.
no.
I'm glad you said it. We're all thinking it.
There's always an angle grinder. Oh, nice
Now
one.
I'm already smoothed down. There's no more sandpaper
Oh,
required.
that's what it is, right?
Polishing cloth now.
Of course. God, we didn't think of it from that angle.
That's it.
Yeah.
Velvet leather
Yeah.
wrapped in chocolate.
Blessed indeed is Lou, for he is velvet leather wrapped in
Mm.
chocolate. Yeah, it's the last sentence. Yeah.
Beautiful sentence. Most important, let's get back to open-mindedness. The most important line in that one is the open-mindedness comes with a lack of judgment.
Mm.
Because what is closed-mindedness but have already made up your mind, bought into beliefs, and judged everything against that belief system.
Mm-hmm.
And open-mindedness is saying, I don't need to convert you. I don't need to anything. I don't need to agree with you. I don't need to validate it. I don't need to deny it. I don't need to resist it. I just let it come and go.
I just
And
accept it as
you
it
think
is.
about spiritual people, spiritualized egos. You read someone's blog, and if anything, the best thing you can say is thank you. That's it. Full stop.
Yeah.
What do some of the spiritualized egos do? They regurgitate what you've just written just to prove to you that they agree. And what do the others? What do the other half do? They have to argue. They disagree. You've used the wrong word. You've said consciousness instead of awareness, and they have to argue with you or find fault with the way you've said it or comment because they disagree. If you truly know self, you're not judging self. And if you're not judging self, you're not judging selves, fractured
Mm.
selves, me and many me's, many
Mm-hmm.
me's. If there's no judgment of anything else, then I'm fully open-minded to what appears and disappears, part of the script. No point in resisting it, no point in fighting it. Okay, so what's the purpose now? Do I become all nihilist now and avoid it all and hide in a cave and and this isn't real and nothing means anything, so I just wait to die. No. Now, the passionate being, the passion of the Christ, your Christ mind pours through this apparent vessel and pours itself back into its dream of separation to demonstrate the unity of Christ mindedness we all are. And you become an example for those who want to see and remember self, because you're not there to teach anyone or fix anyone or change anyone. But for those who are willing to look for an example that are resonating in the same vibrational frequency as you, will align, they'll find you, you'll become a symbol for the truth, the face of Christ for them, as they are for you. And the alignment brings us all, because we're all uniquely suited to certain groups of uniquely suited whatever.
Yeah.
That's it. It's just no judgment. I see, I appear. If I have to say something, I say thank you. If I can't say something kind and supportive and compassionate, be quiet.
Mm.
Simple. You pour yourself lovingly in and you say gratitude, or you say nothing.
Mm.
You need a comment, change, right, wrong. Hey, Leon, how many times have people misunderstood your memes and written some silly comment, gotten into an argument over, and then you watched them argue over, you just posted it for the hell of it. It was funny to you at the time. And next thing they're going into interpreting the meme. Like,
Yeah.
what
Yeah, I've
the,
had that. I've had that.
what
You know,
the, you know?
they just don't get it. They don't get the joke, so to speak. You know, and you
Yeah.
think, and
And
I
then
didn't mean
they
that.
need,
They'll get on with it.
yeah,
You know,
it's the need to judge, the need to separate, the need to specialize, special, less
yeah,
than, grandiosity, littleness,
Yeah.
or reverse it, victim, look at me, woe is me. If
Mm.
you open-mindedness, if you're fully open-minded, there's no judgment of self or others. There's no judgment of self, there's no littleness, there's no grandiosity, there's just present moment awareness, the
Mm.
infinite lightness of being. As
Mm.
condemnation judges the Son of God as evil, the sons of God, the fractured selves. So open-mindedness permits him to be judged by the voice for God on his
That's
behalf. What
brilliant.
does the voice for God judge us? You are my holy Son, holy, perfect, changeless as the day you were created to be the loving, joyous extension of God. That's it. No
Brilliant.
judgment, but you are the holy Son of God.
That is so good, mate. Well done. And also, I'll tell you what I love that you've pulled out there is that word permits. So, as condemnation judges the Son of God as evil, so open mindedness permits him to be judged by the voice for God on his behalf.
Absolutely.
Complete dissolution of the stopping point of the separate self. And how that is done, it's through permission. Such a fantastic expose.
Phenomenal. Mm. Phenomenal.
Absolutely fantastic.
you know,
Let's
my what I
go back to this little chapter here because this is bonkers. It's so good. Not chapter, paragraph. How do the open-minded forgive? They've let go all things that would prevent forgiveness. Okay. They have, in truth, abandoned the world and let it be restored to them in newness and in joy so glorious that they could have never have conceived of such a change. Nothing is now as it was formerly, nothing but sparkles now, which seemed so dull and lifeless before. And above all are things welcoming, for threat is gone. No clouds remain to hide the face of Christ. Now is the goal achieved. Forgiveness is the final goal of the curriculum. It paves the way for what goes far beyond all learning. The curriculum makes no effort to exceed its legitimate goal. Forgiveness is its single aim, at which all learning ultimately converges. It is indeed enough. And, there's a few throwaway words there. It is indeed enough. You could probably write a great big book based around those four words, but it is indeed enough. And where it says forgiveness is the final goal of the curriculum, it paves the way for what goes far beyond all learning. And then if we jump ahead to that next paragraph where it says that we're not going to talk about stuff that's part of your inheritance, it would be inappropriate here. it paves the way for what goes far beyond all learning. It's like that's forgiveness is the final goal. We're not going to try and exceed that goal. This is its single aim. All the learning converges at that. That is enough. We're not going to bother talking about the other stuff because it wouldn't be appropriate. And all of that is so far beyond our curriculum that learning just disappears in its presence. But while its presence is obscured, the focus properly belongs on the curriculum. It's so logical. It makes so much sense. It's so logical. And
Just open your mind and let everything fall out,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah,
nice one.
Just let
Exactly
it
that.
all fall out. The gratitude I have every day, every day. I thank the God for how I am, and my situation, how I am. I'm so grateful. It's grateful with a big G. Really.
grateful to the big G for the big
Yeah.
G.
And I'm grateful that my mind is open as it is, because the more open it is, the happier you are, as far as it applies to me anyway. Clogging yourself up with unhappy thoughts is just clogging yourself up. It's just
Yeah,
get over it.
Mental
You know?
constipation.
yeah. Instead of bringing the glad
Yeah.
tidings of complete forgiveness to the world.
Mm.
What do? We get into these mental masturbation sessions, where we're
Yeah.
arguing semantics and semiotics and meaning behind meaning in a meaningless world.
Mm.
I'm right, you're wrong. This is the voice. No, that's the voice. The voice is this dude or that voice. Hey, forgive, 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 forgive. Nothing to forgive.
Mm.
The recognition of self, the joyous lightness of being comes through. What's the point of understanding the course and being able to lecture on it if you cannot be the joyous lightness of being? You mentioned it. When I embarked on A Course in Miracles after having gone into so many paths and read 2,500 books over a 20-year period, I there was all I was imagining is I'm going to learn something new, maybe learn some party tricks and do some hands-on healing and heal the blind and get a date and maybe get married and have a few kids at best. The last thing I was expecting is the peace of God that transcends understanding into knowing. I conceptually got it. I understood that it could be possible, but never in my wildest imagination did I ever think or imagine that I could live a life of such joyous peace with so much less than I ever thought I ever wanted or needed, because I stopped needing things and wanting things and started letting all those materialistic things of the world that was just about show, let it all go. Still need a car, still need a vehicle. You don't need a Ferrari anymore. You live in Africa. A four-wheel drive will do. Um, a fridge is still a fridge. You need somewhere to put cold beers because your friends drink beer. Um, you still need an oven to cook a meal, etc. But it no longer was about the glam and the Armani suits and the fancy shoes that you can't spell because they're made in Italy somewhere and they're damn uncomfortable, but everybody comments on them. Or the fancy watches that such a huge amount of money spent on something to tell the illusionary time, and all of that nonsense just disappeared. And in place of all those things that you hope to get in order to feel validated, worthy, joyful, peaceful, whatever, the love of God you wanted to feel, because that's all it is, a cry for love. All of those things, all those events, places, titles, things were replaced with the joyous lightness of being, the peace of God. Never, ever could have imagined. And the mistake that so many people make, and if you're watching this, please don't make this mistake. You don't have to stop, nothing to sacrifice. You don't become all spiritual and speak in spiritual tones, start sounding all soft and gentle, smile all the time. Hey, not all of us are designed to smile all the time. If I look like I'm smiling, people hide their children. It's just be yourself as you are. The persona is the persona. If you want to make a joke, make a joke. If you want to say, go fuck yourself, do it properly and with fervor and passion. Don't try and change what you are being changed from the inside out. You will become gentle. You will become gentler. The aggression will go because you now trust your brothers who are one with you. You don't have to put it down. You don't have to hide all your guns and now become a vegan and librarian and never eat. It'll happen naturally. Don't force it. Don't chase it. Be patient. Stay in faithfulness, and the peace of God will transcend. Because all you need to do is will to will. You're not doing anything. His grace does everything. You're just willing to let it happen. Willing, open-mindedness, open-minded to let it be shown and to be demonstrated. You will be given proof. You will be given proof. I speak from experience. Don't believe a word I say. Try it
But
out for yourself.
you're speaking from the heart though, and that's what matters.
Yeah, but you got to try it out yourself. These are just words. None of us are trying to convert anyone. We're not trying to sell a course. We're not trying to
No,
sell a
No
seminar.
words.
we're
I mean,
just
there is a,
in.
there is a retreat in South Africa. I've told you guys about it.
Well,
2067. Yeah.
words are just symbols of symbols, aren't they? They're once removed. We look at it as a symbol, giving it a symbolic name, and it's a symbol of
Yeah.
a symbol. You
Symbol of a
know,
symbol.
yeah.
Yeah, our invitation is for people to join with us and to listen to us riffing and enjoying talking about the system that speaks to us. We enjoy their comments. The momentum and the fuel is the fact that people express their gratitude and they enjoy it as well. But it's just a simple sharing. This is a happening that we are enjoying ourselves with an open invitation. Um, and it doesn't particularly have a desired outcome beyond what
No
it is.
agenda.
No agenda. We just happen to press record and share it.
I still cannot remember why we agreed to do this and why we're doing it. We're doing it and I'm enjoying it.
No, it's in the past.
And the past isn't true, so there's no reason.
there's, there's no reason. We're just here.
We just like watching ourselves on YouTube.
Right, guys, let's see what our friend Nisargadatta's got to say this week.
Okay.
So, the true knowledge of the self is not a knowledge. It's not something you find by searching, by looking everywhere. It's not to be found in space or time. Knowledge is but a memory, a pattern of thought, a mental habit. All these are motivated by pleasure and pain. It's because you are guided by pleasure and pain that you're in search of knowledge. Being oneself is completely beyond all motivation. You cannot be yourself for some reason. You are yourself, and no reason is needed. By doing yoga, I shall find peace. Can there be peace apart from yourself? Are you talking from your own experience or from books only? Your book knowledge is useful to begin with, but soon it must be given up for direct experience, which by its very nature is inexpressible. Words can be used for destruction also. Of words, images are built. By words, they are destroyed. You got yourself into your present state through verbal thinking. You must get out of it the same way. I did attain a degree of inner peace. Am I to destroy it? What has been attained may be lost again. Only when you realize the true peace, the peace you have never lost, that peace will remain with you, for it was never away. Instead of searching for what you do not have, find what is it that you have never lost. That which is there before the beginning and after the ending of everything, that to which there is no birth nor death, that immovable state which is not affected by the birth and death of a body or a mind, that state you must perceive. And what are the means to such perception? In life, nothing can be had without overcoming obstacles. The obstacles to the clear perception of one's true being are desire for pleasure and fear of pain. It's the pleasure-pain motivation that stands in the way. The very freedom from all motivation, the state in which no desire arises, is the natural state. Such giving up of desires, does it need time? If you leave it to time, millions of years will be needed. Giving up desire after desire is a lengthy process, with the end never in sight. Leave alone your desires and fears. Give your entire attention to the subject, to him who is behind the experience of desire and fear. Ask, who desires? Let each desire bring you back to yourself. The root of all desires and fears is the same, the longing for happiness. The happiness you can think of and long for is mere physical or mental satisfaction. Such sensory or mental pleasure is not the real, the absolute happiness. Even sensory and mental pleasures and the general sense of well-being, which arise with physical and mental health, must have their roots in reality. They have their roots in imagination. A man who is given a stone and assured that it is a precious diamond will be mightily pleased until he realizes his mistake. In the same way, pleasure lose their tang and pains their barb when the self is known. Both are seen as they are, conditioned responses, mere reactions, plain attractions and repulsions based on memories or preconceptions. Usually, pleasure and pain are experienced when expected. It's all a matter of acquired habits and convictions. Well, pleasure may be imaginary, but pain is real. Pain and pleasure go always together. Freedom from one means freedom from both. If you do not care for pleasure, you'll not be afraid of pain. But there is happiness which is neither, which is completely beyond. The happiness you know is describable and measurable. Mm-hmm. It's objective, so to say. But the objective cannot be your own. It would be a grievous mistake to identify yourself with something external. Thus, churning up of levels leads nowhere. Reality is beyond the subjective and objective, beyond all levels, beyond every distinction. Most definitely, it is not their origin, source, or root. These come from ignorance of reality, not from reality itself, which is indescribable, beyond being, and not being.
Profound.
Leaves you with the same vibe of those last two few sections from the characteristics of just like, okay.
Being, not being.
Yeah.
This is the beauty of the
Which
truth.
go back to what I said earlier about my revelation in Australia and the ones I had before. It's just when it happens, it's nothing to describe.
Yeah,
I can't say what it was like. All I can say it was ecstatic, but that's nowhere near. That's a label I can hang on it, but it's only because I haven't got a better one. You know, words can't describe it. And once you get that, nothing else matters. Nothing else matters at all. While I was in that state, nothing mattered. There was no time, nothing.
Yeah. Yet it wants to be shared, doesn't it, Steve? It wants to pour out. It wants to be shared.
Yeah.
And then you go through a refinement process of refining and simplifying, and then eventually you just go quiet and pour yourself fully into a life without serving the rest of your fractured selves is not life at all. And I mean, think about it. Why would Nurse Sagadata go and do satsangs and teach people? He had a businesses, because it just wants to share. It wants to share. It wants to be shared because it's the love of God for his son. That's what it is. That's the call.
The shared love, yes.
It's one shared love.
And you just want to keep on sharing it.
Yeah.
No.
When I had the experience at the weekend of this new music, there was a couple of lines that come through inspired by something I'd read. And yeah, what I'd read was everything wants to be known. And
Mm.
it just hit me so hard. It was so pure. And I was just like, oh my God, how brilliant is that? Everything wants to be known. You know, God wants to be known. As thoughts within the mind of God, we want to be known. And then I added like everything wants to be seen. It's like as another aspect of the same principle. Everything wants to be known. Everything wants to be seen. And just how like that creates a closed circuit of just like, well, there you go. That's the drill. That's why we want to share. That's why we want to serve. That's why we enjoy talking and bouncing ideas off one another and being inspired by the different perspectives that we offer each other, is because we have that inherent desire, if you can call it that, to want to be known, because God wants to be known, truth wants to be known, love wants to be known, because it wants to extend, and extension happens through knowledge and the knowledge of being.
And you could even go a step deeper, not to contradict you, but to
That's
take it
fine.
even lighter.
Mm-hmm.
And the wanting to be known, there's not even at a lighter stage, there's not even a wanting to be, there's just the knowing of it.
Yeah.
And the wanting to be known is from our not knowing perspective,
Yeah.
from our separation perspective. Once that separation perspective is dropped, the wanting to be known is just the knowing. It's all pervading. It's all perpetually all pervading. It's never not there. And then
Which
you realize the simple
bring
choice I've always had to see anew. I just chose to look at something else, to my illusions instead.
lovely. And that ties in with Nisargadatta as well, where he talks about the seer, the seeing, and the seen, doesn't he? Steve
Yeah.
brought this up quite a few times. It's like the seer doesn't exist, the seen doesn't exist. It's just the seeing. And interestingly, maybe the lyrics that I got from that inspiration was like, "You only want to be known, you only want to be seen." And there's no stop
Yeah.
point to that in my own interpretation of that. There's no arrested position. It's just a constant flow state of just like
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the nighttime dreams are a good example of that. Like you got the seer, the seeing, and the seen.
mm,
If you think of a dream at night, it isn't actually there. The seers, the dreams, are not there. The seen are not there. The only thing's there is you seeing.
brilliant.
And it's the same here. There's just you seeing. And once you grasp that, I mean, it's just a dream. If you can place yourself somehow within, like, how you imagine a person to be within your dreaming mind, if you can grasp what the situation is for them and put it on yourself,
Mm,
you get an idea of what actually we're supposed to be aiming at. Well, are aiming at, not supposed to be. That's why the nighttime dream is such a great analogy,
mm.
because it's more or less what we're doing
I've
being
often
here.
often thought how what a great communication tool that
Hmm.
is, and how different our lives would be if we never had sleep and never had dreams, because it's an incredibly powerful form of like a metaphor, like you say, isn't
Sure.
it?
Yeah.
How else would we have recognized what the teaching meant when Jesus said, "As above, so below"?
No, precisely.
So. But on that
Yeah.
happy note, I have to rise above the battlefield. I have a plane to catch.
Beautiful.
Okay. Places to
I,
So
go,
I'm going
people
to
to
say
meet.
goodbye and see you all soon. Thank you for sharing, my brothers. I
Thank
really
you for coming, my friend. It's
yeah,
great to see you.
pleasure. Travel safe.
See you, mate.
Namaste.